Tec-22, did you say?
Tec-22.
Tec-22 that you referred to. And this is a weapon that can be purchased, can no longer be purchased in the state of New Jersey?
That's correct. Mr. Chairman, if I could just add one point on that. There is a need to have incorporated into the legislation that you consider generic definitions as well, because there is a new game that's being played. That is fine. You go and prohibit the Tec-9, someone will make cosmetic modifications to it, then call it the Tec DC-9, which was the weapon that was used in San Francisco, and therefore you're outside of the parameters of the prohibitions. So you've got to be aware of the fact that the gun manufacturers, who are really the heart of the NRA, and the gun dealers, who are the people who are really pushing this, because there's money to be made. Those folks are very creative, and you've got to fashion legislation that will take into account the ability of someone to make a cosmetic change and then go out and try to sell something. I've seen Tec-22s, Tec-22s and other type of 22 caliber Uzi-like mechanisms and weapons. So you've got to be aware of that phenomena as well.
Well, Governor, I'll be very brief and then yield to my friend from Utah, but yield the remainder of my time to the senator from Ohio. I have heard over the years three basic arguments against any leading that are used by those who argue we should not attempt to curtail the manufacture, sale, or even have checks on those who purchase weapons to try to filter out convicted felons. And as I understand it, no one's heard more of the arguments than you. They basically break down into three categories. One is utility, that notwithstanding the fact that it may theoretically be constitutional, may not have any economic consequence, it's not going to work because the bad guys are going to get the guns anyway. The second argument I most often hear is the Second Amendment argument, which you made reference to today. And it seems to me anyone who acknowledges that there is the ability to curtail the sale and possession of any weapon at all finds themselves in a Second Amendment conundrum that how do you then say you can't deal with here? For example, I don't think most Americans would think people should be able to buy used Sherman tanks and keep them in their backyard, or F-15 jets with ordnance attached to them to put on a grass strip behind your farmhouse, or, as you point out, automatic machine guns, or used howitzers. Most people acknowledge that it is within the realm of the purview of the government, consistent with the Second Amendment, to be able to curtail the possession of those weapons. I'm going to ask the NRA about that. I'll tell them ahead of time. They've been asked the question a lot, but for the record, I'd like them to speak to that issue. And the third argument I hear that you've raised today, and I'd like to speak with you about just for a moment, is one that no one makes publicly who supports the continuation of the sale of these weapons or who argues against, I remember we had a heck of a fight on Teflon tip bullets. I mean, my God, you know, they have one basic purpose: to penetrate Kevlar vests and kill cops. That was a long, drawn-out fight. Finally, we got a consensus, and even those who support it, who are against our ban on these weapons, ultimately came around to some extent. But one of the arguments I never hear discussed publicly is the economic interest argument you raised. Do you have any sense, Governor, I don't expect you to have this answer, but you're so informed on this stuff, you may. What is the economic benefit that flows to manufacturers in terms of dollars, if you know, from the sale of these weapons?
For example, the Tec-22 that I made reference to, the one I'm particularly familiar with that killed this little girl, I mean, it's a piece of junk. No self-respecting sportsman would ever have one. But they are very inexpensive to make, and the markup, because they are relatively inexpensive to sell, is tremendous. If you're not selling it to a sportsman, you're not selling it to a hunter, who is it you're selling it to, and why are you continuing to make it? And why, therefore, do people make the argument, oh, well, it's only at 22, let it go out there? And the answer is it's the economics of this that is driving us. I've had letters from people in the NRA who tell me that they are lifelong members. They are embarrassed by some of the tactics of the organization. They have no interest for these types of things. I will tell you the most vocal part of the community in my state in opposition to what it is we've done have been the gun dealers. They see part of the inventory going down. Now, I guess from a standpoint of the marketplace and economics, maybe I can be sympathetic, but when you weigh in the balance what the problem is that's caused by the commercial gain of someone versus the social instability and problems, and I suspect you're going to hear from some other witnesses today about what the human price is that we pay for having access to these things. I don't even think that's a close call.
Well, Governor, one of the things that Senator DeConcini has talked about, and he said today, was he would like very much for us to get the facts out and have a debate that was based on all the facts. I, for one, do think there are legitimate Second Amendment arguments relating to the extent to which government can curtail access to weapons. I have spent a lot of time trying to study that issue. As a matter of fact, I even teach that issue in law school, in the constitutional law. I happen to believe the Second Amendment was designed to protect the right of people to hold and bear arms. So I'm not one who takes that lightly. But we tend not to debate the facts, not you and I, but we tend in the national forum not to debate the facts. And one of the facts that I have never heard, and I would invite those who are going to testify today in opposition to the ban, if they know, I'd appreciate it, is what is the economic impact to the manufacturers and to the gun dealers on the sale of these kinds of weapons? If we were to curtail and the ability to manufacture and sell, what would be the impact? I'd like to know the facts. Those figures have to be available. They're a useful thing to know. They're a useful thing for us to have in terms of this debate. And so that's why I asked the question. I will not prolong it. I do, again, appreciate your time and effort to be here, Governor. I will now yield to my friend from Utah, who knows a lot about this issue as well, and then to my friend from Ohio.
Governor,
thank you, Governor.
We're happy to have you here. I won't take very much of your time. Let me just correct a few things. Although originally the NRA did not support the ban on Teflon bullets, they ultimately supported the ban.